One behavior change that you think all leaders need is what?
It's going to be simple. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Stop avoiding the tough conversations because you think you're being polite or kind to people. That's not kind. All I'm saying about vulnerability is that when you are in uncertainty, when you feel at risk, when you feel exposed, don't tap out. Stay brave, stay uncomfortable, stay in the cringy moment, lean into the hard conversation, and keep leading. Stay brave. I'm not saying you need to overshare. I'm not saying you need to weep uncontrollably to show how human you are. I'm saying try to be aware of your armor. And when you feel vulnerable, try to stay human, keep leaning. Shame drives two big tapes, never good enough. And if you can talk it out of that one, who do you think you are? Thing to understand about shame is it's not guilt. Shame is a focus on self. Guilt is a focus on behavior. Shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. There is a huge difference between shame and guilt. And here's what you need to know. Shame is highly, highly correlated with addiction, depression, violence, aggression, bullying, suicide, eating disorders. And here's what you even need to know more. Guilt, inversely correlated with those things. Empathy is the antidote to shame. If you put shame in a petri dish, it needs three things to grow exponentially: secrecy, silence, and judgment. If you put the same amount of shame in a petri dish and douse it with empathy, it can't survive. The two most powerful words when we're in struggle, me too.
What would you say to all the men of the world in general?
I think I would say that vulnerability is not weakness. It's about the willingness to show up and be seen when you can't control the outcome. And it is actually our greatest measure of courage. So show up in an authentic way and let us see your hearts, because we know how lonely you actually are. There will be times when standing alone feels too hard, too scary, and we'll doubt our ability to make our way through the uncertainty. Someone somewhere will say, don't do it. You don't have what it takes to survive the wilderness. This is when you reach deep into your wild heart and remind yourself, I am the wilderness. We're all ordinary people, but I think sometimes this world is tough because we shame and diminish ordinary. Ordinary lives or small lives. You know, ordinary moments are, we chase extraordinary moments instead of like being grateful for ordinary moments until hard shit happens. One of the cheapest, easiest ways to lead is to give people someone to hate and blame for your misery. And so we have to really watch that in our country right now. All you have to do when people are in uncertainty and fear is give them someone to blame and give them a reason to blame them, and then step back and watch everything just fall apart. Leadership used to be about muscle. Today it's about brain, but moving forward it'll be about heart. No matter how great the algorithm is, you won't replace what makes us uniquely human, which is courage, connection, and empathy. Belonging. We're wired for love. We're hardwired for belonging. It's in our DNA. But let me tell you what belonging is. The opposite of belonging from the research is fitting in. That's the opposite of belonging. Fitting in is assessing and acclimating. Here's what I should say, be. Here's what I shouldn't say. Here's what I should avoid talking about. Here's what I should dress like, look like. That's fitting in. Belonging is belonging to yourself first, speaking your truth, telling your story, and never betraying yourself for other people. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. And that's vulnerable. There are 7 elements that we're talking about when we talk about trust. Braving is the acronym we use. B is boundaries. You set boundaries. When you don't know what they are, you ask. You're clear about what's okay and not okay. Reliability is the R. You do what you say and you say what you do. A is accountability. You don't back channel and blame. You hold people accountable in a straightforward way. V, which I think is really interesting, is the vault. Not only do you not talk out of school between us, you don't come in here and say, hey, look, I know what's going on with Don, blah, blah, or using stories that are not mine as currency. Then we go to I, integrity, which is choosing courage over comfort, practicing your values. It's choosing what's right over what's fun, fast, and easy. We have a culture of people who don't do discomfort. And then we go to N for non-judgment. You can ask for help without feeling judged, and I can ask for help without judging myself. And then generosity, which is when something happens, I assume positive intent. When perfectionism is driving, shame is always riding shotgun, and fear is the annoying backseat driver. We struggle with perfectionism in areas where we feel most vulnerable to shame.